Today we're gonna remake Sports Car by Tate McRae, and it's gonna sound like this. Alright guys, my name is Badhabit. I'm so excited about today's breakdown. Sports Car by Tate McRae, definitely one of the most interesting songs that came out in 2025. Production-wise, really an incredible job by Grant Boutin and Ryan Tedder. It's been a while since I remade a Tate McRae song since Greedy, and this song definitely has some things in common with that, but here we start to see some different trends and techniques that make this song sound real fresh, and that you can start to use too in your own productions to really give them that extra something that's gonna set you apart from all the other producers. We're ready to start, but before we do, I want to say thank you. Thank you guys, because we're about to hit 50,000 subscribers on the channel. And to thank you guys, I partnered with one of my favorite plugin brands, Artoria, for the biggest giveaway I've ever done. Over $2,000 worth of plugins that you can win just by watching this video. The entire Artoria collection for free. But more on that later in the video, so make sure you stick around. Let's dive into this. I want to start from the intro because the very first sound that we hear is already transporting us back to the 2000s. With that lead sound, that reminds me a lot of Timbaland, Nelly Furtado, that kind of music. So first thing I'm asking myself, what would have Timbaland used for a sound like that? And the answer is one of those workstations like the Korg Trident. I think I want to play with the filter a little bit. It needs to be a little more open. Yeah. Just fixing the length of some of these notes to make sure that feels right. I like this. And I want you to pay attention to two things that I find really interesting about this sound. First of all, when I play it like this, it sounds kind of boring. Like, it's very static, it's not really moving. But if you listen to the actual song, you have the feeling that something is slightly moving, and that is the pitch. So I feel like there might be a little bit of automation on the pitch bend. Like, the pitch is not really consistent. It feels like it's kind of floating between two notes. It's not exactly an E all the time. It feels like they're playing with the pitch bend. Something like that. What we can do is go here in the envelopes, and from here, MIDI control pitch bend, we can just design a little automation. Can you hear, like, for just a second, the E falling down a little bit towards the E flat, but not actually hitting that note? It's just very subtle, but this adds a little bit of movement to this lead that otherwise would feel kind of boring, especially because it's always hitting the same notes so many times. Sometimes something like that might also be happening. And maybe again here. Yeah, that's such a smart trick. Wow. Grant, good job. And the second thing that I want you to pay attention to is that in the second half of the intro, it sounds to me like they're also using a lower octave of the same exact sound, just to make it a little bit fuller. Duplicate this track, bring it down an octave. Just some quick OTT to really push out those higher frequencies. Valhalla vintage verb, which always works. A little shorter. And for the lower octave, just a little bit more reverb, and I also decided to filter it down just a little bit with this great plugin. You can hear it, but it's kind of underwater. And I love it when from the intro, I can tell immediately what song it is. And this is one of them, immediately recognizable. And that's something that you should always aim for when producing one of your songs. All right, time to move on to the thing you've all been waiting for. The drums. In this intro, besides this lead sound, we already hear the drums almost full. There are a few more layers coming in as we move on towards the chorus, but the drums that you hear in the intro are pretty much the full drums that you hear throughout the song. And again, we hear the heavy Timbaland influence with a lot of percussions, different layers interacting with each other, creating this very stanky groove. So to break down these drums, let's start from the kick. The main kick sounds kind of dark, muffled, but then when we get to this second half of the intro, not only this lead in the lower octave is coming in, but it feels like the kick is getting bigger. And that's when I start to hear also a stomp kick layered on top of our darker kick. I need to find something that Timbaland would have used. This is not bad, but I think the low end is a little bit too much. Okay, so this one might be the one. This has a good body, thumpy, like really dark. I think I want to start from this one. Let's see. So the pattern is pretty simple. That's it. That's basically all the kick is doing throughout the song. Kind of feels like this kick has a lot of low end and their kick is just a little bit softer. I think I like it better this way. So like we said, we need a stomp kick for the second half, and Kashmir just has incredible stomp kicks. I love this one. I love this one. So we get here and oh wow, the kick is getting bigger. Love it. When I play them together, I just have the feeling like the phase is not exactly there. So I just use this plugin to reverse the phase of the stomp and just listen to this. Wow, like it's so much fuller. I was just listening to the track right now and I kind of have the feeling like in the second half, not only a stomp is coming in, but maybe like, I don't know, something that sounds a little bit more like an 808 kick. So with a longer tail, possibly. Let me just try to find like an 808 kick. So I found this one, which I think is perfect for what we need because it doesn't have a lot of top, a lot of attack, but it has that longer tail. So now when we play them together, you know, like it feels like a unique thing, but with a little bit of a longer tail. And also I had to tune this, of course, to the key. So, you know, I just went +1. Amazing. It's sounding great. So now I think the next big thing about these drums are those huge toms that we hear. And they go something like big. Oh wow, I love when these kicks come in right here. They sound like huge toms with a very big stereo image. So first thing is finding the right sounds. And here we really need some aggressive toms. Again, maybe Kashmir, something like that. Nah. Not these. Okay, that's not bad. That's like a higher tone. Maybe we need something lower, but let me just put this here for a second. Oh, I love this one. I love it because it already has an interesting stereo feel, like it's already sounding big, huge, and also it's pretty aggressive. So let's see if we just layer these two toms. So let's start from this one. Okay, so this one alone, no, doesn't stand a chance, but maybe together. Oh, it's kind of helping, like in the attacking, like making this tom real aggressive. Okay, let's make them even bigger. Like I have a plugin in mind. What's it called? Midside? I think it's this one. Even just wide. So without it. Oh yeah, it makes a difference. I love it. They're just sounding a little bit too harsh. Like there's a lot of highs here. So maybe a little bit of EQing. Something like that. Way better. Way better. Oh, I love it. So one thing that still doesn't feel right about these toms is that they need a little bit of flamming, I think. And maybe the attack of both is a little bit too intense. So I might just want to fade in a little bit. This is something that I love to do whenever I have kicks or toms, something that has a very pointy top. Sometimes all you need is just fading a little bit. And maybe, why don't we try to move this a little bit, like exactly, to give it a little bit of this flamming, which is barely noticeable. But I think this could make a difference. Oh, this is so much better. This is so much better. I love it. Subtle difference, but yeah, I like it. We need a clap, snare, like it sounds like it's a big layer of claps and snares. So let's just start exploring. So I brought in a bunch of claps, all sounding a little bit different. Let's see, we have a bunch of pre-shifted claps like this one and this one, you know, to have a little bit of that flamming effect. And then I just, you know, used some basic claps like this one, very quiet, just to give it a little bit of tail. And this one, I don't even know, like I liked it and I just put it in the mix. This one, a little bit more of a hand clap, you know, here. But I still feel like when you play it, It's missing that main snare. Remember that snare that we used in the greedy breakdown? I kind of have the feeling they've used the same type of snare in this song as well. And I'm talking about those heavily tuned snare with a very clear note, like do, do, something like that. I remember I always say it, Jack U, Skrillex, and Diplo using those kind of snares in every single one of their songs. And I have a pack with a bunch of snares that sound like that. So, you know? Okay, this is kind of close. Oh no, that's definitely too much. It sounds like dubstep. So I like this, but it's still kind of aggressive, and also it's the wrong note. The note that we need, we gotta find it. We can just pitch it. Nope. That's the note. And one little trick that I'm gonna show you right now, when you have a snare like this, or even if you don't have a snare that's already tuned like this one, you can use something like a resonator that's gonna help a lot bringing out a specific note. So let me just show you how it works. Now, the note that we need here is, I believe, a C sharp. I'm gonna put the dry wet at 100% and put this in parallel. So we preserve the dry signal of the snare that we already have, but in parallel, we also have this resonator, okay? And now, when you play it, it sounds like that, and you might be thinking, what the hell is this? It's sounding horrible. Yes, but if you make the decay real short and maybe pitch it up, we can disable this, just keep this note. Oh, okay, now you're starting to see where I'm going. All right. Okay, so without it, there's already a little bit of note in there, but the longer the decay and the more noticeable it becomes. So now together with the claps, woo, I'm starting to feel it. So if this is not worth subscribing to the channel, I don't really know what is. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the right time to do it. And guys, just because I've used so many claps here, it doesn't mean that you have to. Maybe you can just find the perfect clap, just one or maybe two. Now, I was just throwing samples in the session to see what would work, and I kind of fell in love with this blend of claps. But yeah, that many layers are not necessary really. So at this point, we have all the main elements of the drums. We have the kick, we have these claps together with that very cool tuned snare, and we have the big toms. But there are still some percussions missing, probably a bunch of loops. One thing that I'm hearing quite well is like some sort of like orchestral loop, something that goes like, that's not bad. That's not exactly an orchestral loop. That's more, it's called tribal loop, but I was scrolling through these and we just have to adjust some of these hits which are in the wrong place. So this one should be something like that, I think. Exactly. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. Oh yeah, that's what we need. Yeah, it's starting to sound like the actual thing. There's a plugin that I've been loving lately and using a lot, which is Devilock by Soundtoys. If you use like this the crunch, of course, like it's making it super dirty, but it's also bringing up a lot of those dynamics, you know? Okay. Yeah. We kind of have found its own space within the groove, which is great. We still need to find an orchestral role. How about this one? Yeah, love it. That's perfect. So I just added these additional things like this hat and this triangle that you can hear. Something very simple here. And just one additional percussion roll, subtle, but when you put it together with the rest, you have this. Okay, we needed that extra accent. Yeah. So now we're going into the verse with these drums, and that main lead that we hear in the intro is going away. And what's coming in is the bass. And the bass sound in the verse is pretty filtered, but I suspect it's the same sound that they've used in the chorus with the only difference that in the chorus, the filter is fully open. Not sure if you're familiar with the Hoover bass, but that's a sound that was very popular around the 2000, especially in dance music. I know exactly where to look for because I have a very specific Hoover bass that I love to use every single time. I'm not sure it's gonna work this time, but we can try. It's a preset from Pigments that I should have as one of my favorites, and it's this one right here, Millennial Hoover. That's the kind of sound I'm talking about. Not bad. It's actually pretty close. I like it. So I think with a little bit of work, we can definitely get even closer. We gotta filter it down in the verse. Now that it's so filtered, I feel the need to add a little bit of like saturation and distortion because even though it's filtered, I still want to hear a little bit of that saturation, you know, coming through. So, and now I want to make it wider. I want to make it bigger because their bass sounds real big. Oh, super unison. This might be interesting actually. More than a chorus maybe. Oh, I love this. Little less detuning. Yeah. So without it, I love how it's opening the bass. I want to enhance it even more. I want to feel that stereo width a little bit more. Something subtle now because we already have the super unison, so we don't need something, you know, that aggressive. Okay, something like that. Oh yeah, moody. Woo! We're just missing Tate here now. I'm gonna work with her pretty soon. I have this feeling, so I'm saying it here today. Let's see if I'm right. And when we get to this point, there's actually a new bass layer coming in, which is very interesting because that's actually Grant humming in the microphone, making the bass notes. Something like So we're gonna do that right now. So I need to make sure that we hit the right notes here. Oh my God, that D E flat is so difficult to sing. Oh my God, this is terrible. But if we tune it, maybe it's gonna sound okay. We need it double to have a left and a right, and I might have to just melodyne real quick. And also one thing that I want to make sure of is that these notes are cut exactly where the bass is cut. So we're gonna do something like that. Left, right? They're coming in. Pretty quiet. Oh, wow. They're sounding actually way better than I was expecting. A little bit of EQing to make sure that the lower frequencies are not getting in the way of the main bass, but that's about it. We finally got to the pre-chorus, and going into the pre, we hear chords for the first time. And guys, I want to put some focus on this because this is not a random choice. It's not a coincidence that until now in the intro and in the verse, we have this very groovy, syncopated feeling with these drums, with the melody that Tate is singing. And then all of a sudden we go into this new section, which is kind of relaxing in a way. After almost 30 seconds of that, you start to feel the need for longer notes, sustained chords, and then it builds the tension again, it builds, and it goes into this drop, which kind of goes back to what we have in the intro and in the verse. So they're stripping it down, and the chords are going away again. She's whispering now, and so that new section, even though it's kind of sounding like the verse, now feels new. So to go into a chorus like that, you need a break from the verse first. And that's what the pre is for, with that organ sound that we hear and that we're going to find right now. I can probably use like a B3 organ. I'm just going to go for analog lab so we have them all in here. So as you can see, very simple. The chords are changing finally. So we have this F going into this D minor, okay, and then here instead we go into this A major and then again A major, but in a different inversion. I found this preset in Omnisphere. Very simple organ, you know, it's called Simple Mellow Organ. And then all I did after layering these two organs is just adding a filter with a little more resonance, you know, to enhance even more that organ sound. And then I just added super simple reverb. So from this, we go into this. Oh, finally, you know? And guys, this is a technique that you can try to use too in your own productions to really make sure that there's always something feeling new. Like your productions should never feel like they're boring, like nothing is changing. I feel like they probably had like this very cool verse, and maybe they had the idea of going into this chorus whispering, but then they were like, okay, but if we just make the whole song sounding like that, it's gonna feel boring. So we need something in the pre that really is switching it up completely, you know? And so that's a technique that I encourage you guys to try. As you can see, guys, most of the plugins that I use on a daily basis are from Arturia. And that's why I decided to partner with them for this incredible giveaway. So let me tell you more about it. Just by watching this video, you have a big chance of winning all of these plugins, all of the Arturia plugins, the entire collection. Over $2,000 worth of plugins completely for free. This is just a way for me to say thank you to you guys for supporting the channel, whether you've been here since day one or you're discovering the channel just today for the very first time. Thank you for being here. But I know you just want to know, how do I enter this giveaway? All you have to do for a chance of winning is 1. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's free. You can do it by clicking subscribe below. You must be subscribed for a chance to win, but if you are already, you don't have to do anything. And 2, click on the first link in the description, enter your name and email so we can contact you if you're one of the winners, and you're all set. And remember, we're not gonna have 1 winner, but 3 winners, with the first prize being the entire Arturia collection, both instruments and effects. Just wow. You have 14 days starting today, and then I'm gonna go live on my YouTube channel and draw the winners live, so make sure not to miss it. Good luck. It's time for the chorus. Let's go. So going into this chorus, as you can see, all I did was copying the same elements that we had in the verse into the chorus. The same bass, the same drums, and very quickly I added a bunch of these effects, just risers, you know, to increase the tension. But now going into the chorus, it doesn't sound like anything is changing because we still have to open the filter of the bass. And now going into the chorus, oh yeah. Okay, so now at least we have the feeling like something has changed and the energy has actually gone up a little bit. I just added real quick 1 more clap just in the drop because I had the feeling like in the drop there were like bigger claps. I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. So I just added this very simple clap. You know, nothing special, but just to give it something extra. And I just noticed that I completely forgot about one element that is playing in the chorus, but not only in the chorus, it's actually playing also in the verse. But for some reason I forgot about it. So it's a plucky sound, a little bit glassy, maybe. Nah, these are mostly guitars. That's not what I was thinking, but there's another synth still from Korg, another one of those workstations, you know, this wave station. I'm pretty sure there are some glassy sounds in here. For some reason, I can't find them. Oh yeah, okay, finally. Just a little bit of reverb, some saturation, basically for volume here, and yeah. So going into verse 2, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but an 808 is actually playing, an 808 bass. And so I'm wondering, is it possible that the 808 has been playing the whole time, also in the verse and also in the chorus, maybe just, you know, as a layer, as like a sub bass to this Hoover bass? Because it would be kind of weird if the 808 actually started playing from here and not from before. Oh my god, I just love this plugin for 808s. This is one of my favorite. As always, all the plugins that I'm using are linked down in the description, so make sure to check that out. So I had an idea to make sure that this 808 can coexist together with the Hoover bass. I've used this same sound both for the sub and for the verse when you can hear the 808 alone, but when I'm using it as a sub bass, I just filtered it a lot with this plugin, and so it sounds something like that, you know? And this, I think, can live well together with the Hoover bass. Maybe we just need to EQ the Hoover bass to get rid of some of that low end so it doesn't clash with the 808. But when we're going into the verse instead, we have this little fill. In the verse, it sounds like the 808 has more distortion, more saturation. It's not as filtered. And so that's why I just separated the two tracks instead of automating. And I also applied some saturation. So basically, going into the verse, and now you can actually hear the 808 a little bit better with this very cool slide. Just want to remove some of this low end from the Hoover bass because the 808 is already covering that range of frequencies. Okay, we're almost there. The song is pretty much done. But actually, there are a couple of interesting things that we haven't covered yet. We have a couple of ear candies happening here and there to really keep the song interesting. And one of these is a bass sound going into the pre. Yeah, that's the one. And then I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but once I show you, I think you won't be able to unhear this. The song is called Sports Car, right? And there's actually the sound of the car turning on in the verse. So I found one in my library, which is actually pretty similar, and it sounds like this. Amazing. So I had to warp it to make sure that this would work with the groove, you know? And so now, listen to this. Amazing. And real quick, I also added this vocal shout that's basically part of the groove. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, the song is, I would say, around like 90% done because these elements that we have right now keep going throughout the song in the second chorus, and it's always the same elements repurposed, you know, in different ways, and maybe something is going away, something else is coming in. But there is one thing that we haven't covered yet, which I find pretty interesting, that's happening in the second chorus, and these are acoustic guitars. So Grant actually said that he layered a couple of acoustic guitars playing in the second chorus. So to record acoustic guitars, I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna record them just by using my iPhone. The song is very dark sounding, and so they had to keep this in mind also when playing these guitars. Of course, you would never play like full chords, complete and rich chords in a song like that. You don't want that. The song has to sound dark. And so what they're doing is something like that. Yeah, super dark, super moody, you know? So all you need is a phone. I have an iPhone and I love how instruments sound in the iPhone because it has its own way of like compressing the sounds already. I've recorded pianos, I've recorded guitars, I've recorded also some vocals on iPhones. And so all I'm gonna do is just place it here, voice memo, record pretty close to my guitar, you know? And then, yeah, we're gonna play that. Oh, headphones. Airdrop this to my computer. So all I have to do now is comping these guitars that I have here to make sure that I can find actually the best hits, the best chords. And I need to make sure that I have at least two so I can have a left and a right. It definitely sounds like they have the guitars in stereo. So this is what I came up with. Yeah. I love it. It took me a little bit to get to this point because some of these guitars were not perfect at all. As you can see, like I comped them together, especially like some of these I had to like warp them, extend them. I had to work some magic to really make sure that they sound now like they've been played by like a great guitarist, which I'm not. And as always, even if I can't go too much in depth about all of these things, otherwise the videos would get too long. If you're interested, if you actually want to know all my techniques, I have a masterclass where I'm making a song from scratch, from nothing to a finished song. So make sure to check that out. The link is down in the description. Amazing. We're almost there. So stay with me because only one thing is missing, but it's actually kind of crucial because now the session is looking horrible. The sounds are kind of all over the place. So I need to reorganize the session, probably balance some of these elements a little bit better and Final thing, apply some processing to the drum bus to make sure that these drums are really hitting a little bit harder than they are now. All right, now the session is looking way cleaner with the colors that I like. I have organized everything in groups, so it's a little bit more clear. And real quick, I applied my usual mastering, nothing special, just a little bit of compression, some limiting, that's it. One more thing that I actually did while I was balancing the instruments was adding to this bass a little bit of compression, you know, something just to glue together a little bit more the sub with the Hoover bass. I made sure that the lower frequencies were mono. That's something that I actually forgot to do before. And I added just a touch of sidechain, super simple. I used the standard Ableton compressor. So these drums are sounding just amazing, but I want to make them sound like they're knocking a little bit more. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is add a little bit of compression. You know what I'm gonna use for this? You already know, not even gonna tell you. Okay, this sounds about right, like 3 dBs of compression or so, a little bit of makeup, that's about it. And then what I usually do is adding a little bit of saturation. I usually go for like tape saturation, but this is not really the song for tape saturation. This is a song that has to sound like the 2000s, not like the 70s. And so I'm feeling like I want to use something like saturate or even elevate maybe, which is basically like an extended version of saturate. You still have the saturator here, but you also have the transient designer, the EQ here. So I'm gonna just start from a preset. Yeah, let's clip it a bit. Yeah. Maybe let's hear the transients a bit more. Of course, it's also getting louder, but I don't mind, you know? I want to try this one to enhance maybe a little bit the low frequencies. I love this thing. You should try it because listen to this. This is extreme, of course, but like the low frequency enhancer is amazing. This is extreme, but again, listen to the definition. Love it. A little bit of soft clipping. I like it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Whew. Sounding amazing. Alright guys, we got to the end. This was such a fun breakdown. So many interesting things happening, but as you can see, the song is pretty simple. Production doesn't have to be complex to be great, and this is such a great production. Once again guys, don't forget to enter the giveaway. It's completely free, so if you haven't done it yet, just pause the video and do it right now. As always, I hope you learned something new today, or at least that you had a good time watching me break down this song. If you have any questions or song requests for the next breakdowns, just leave a comment below. Now like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.